Good afternoon. On this Saturday, January 10th, I'm Yumna Naufal. These are today's headlines. France takes all measures to ensure the safety of Sunday's march to be attended by European leaders after this week's attacks amidst the highest possible security levels in Paris. Grand Mufti Abdulatif Derian calls on Lebanon's Muslims to denounce extremism and stick to their history of tolerance and diversity. And the weather, more thunderstorms expected, snow and icy roads this weekend, but temperatures start to rise as Storm Zina travels southeast. France will take all measures to ensure the safety of Sunday's march to be attended by European leaders after this week's attacks and is maintaining its highest possible security level in the Paris area, according to the Interior Ministry. Speaking on Saturday after an emergency meeting with French President François Hollande, Bernard Cazeneuve said, "We want to keep the high level of mobilization and vigilance." A number of European leaders, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel and British Prime Minister David Cameron, plan to make the extraordinary show of support by joining the mass rally in Paris on Sunday. French forces are hunting for the girlfriend who is still on the loose of one of the Islamist gunmen who died yesterday when security forces stormed a Jewish market in eastern Paris, where he had taken terrified shoppers hostage. Hayat Boumeidine was said to be armed and dangerous. So this rally tomorrow comes as the country mourns 17 dead in 3 violent days that shook the nation to its core. President François Hollande held an emergency meeting of key ministers earlier this morning, hours after the dramatic end to twin sieges that resulted in the death of 2 brothers who had killed 12 at the offices of Charlie Hebdo on Wednesday. To discuss this further, on the line, joining us live from Brussels, is advisor to the European Parliament, Catherine Vierling. Can you hear me, Catherine?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for calling. Thank you.
Catherine, what do you make of all that happened this week?
Well, it was a big turmoil, in fact, for everybody, not only in France, but in Europe, and I may even say in the world. In fact, what happened, we're still under shock. Everybody here in Europe, and more specifically in France. We never faced such acts of barbarism in our country during the last decades, and this is a new reality that French people have to face now. Okay, speaking of this reality, you know, youth unemployment is very high in France, a little over 24%, and there are 7.7% of Muslims living there, the highest of any European country. However, many analysts are saying that what happened this week is not just a problem of Islamic fundamentalism, but it's a problem of integration amidst economic woes. Do you agree? Indeed, indeed, and this is the case for all French people. As you just said, the unemployment rate is very high, and you have a lot of French citizens who are facing this reality, mainly among young population. And of course, for Muslim people, this reality is even harder, to be frank, as there are many wonderful people who just want to live their normal life as citizens, and they are crushed into these 2 complex issues: how to be a French citizen and how to be a Muslim in French society. This is not easy. Of course, in France, the Voltairean spirit, the spirit of Voltaire, is still very present since the French Revolution. And under the freedom of expression, the freedom of opinion, the freedom of thought, everything which was enshrined in the French Declaration on Human Rights, many behaviors may be considered by disrespectful by believers, no matter the religion, by the way, but definitely for Muslims, it's also quite obvious. I want to get to this issue of freedom of expression that you just mentioned. The editor of the Charlie Hebdo magazine, Stéphane Charbonnier, who was killed this week along with one of his bodyguards, he took precautions. He knew that he was in danger. He was on the Al-Qaeda most wanted list for a while. Do you think that France will reconsider laws at the moment for freedom of expression in order to protect citizens on both ends of the fence?
Well, I'm afraid up to now, everybody is still considering, as you mentioned, a big march tomorrow.
Yes.
And then everybody in every party will try to find its steps. But in fact, you are even more confronted to these realities. And, we have just to realize that this experience is bringing us closer to what people, not only in Lebanon, but in the Middle East, are facing almost on a daily basis. And this is the persecution by terrorists, radicalists, Takfiri organizations, and so forth. And fortunately, in France, we have wonderful police. We had the RAID, we had the GIGN from the gendarmerie, who were absolutely amazing. The elite troops in France were just behaving in a wonderful way, and as you could see, unfortunately, there were people who were killed, but they solved the problem quite, I may say, easily, unfortunately, with dead people. And of course, France has a lot of resources in this field, but still, it's a very new reality, and I think it's a big challenge for France to realize that it's not something isolated we are living in France, but in whole Europe. We have to face now this new reality that you are unfortunately confronted to very frequently.
In Lebanon, I understand what you're saying.
Lebanon.
You mentioned this is a problem of marginalization that we are confronted here on almost a weekly basis, definitely. A survey called TS Emnid, which in Germany, which conducted the survey called Birthless Men Foundation. It's part of the think tank. It shows that in Germany, Muslims, a lot of Germans feel that Muslims are having a problem getting integrated, and a majority feel that they are threatened by Islam. UK Prime Minister David Cameron says he will step up his support for British intelligence as they demand greater powers to help fight Islamist extremism. So what do you think is the future of Islam in Europe as it stands today?
Well, I may say the future of Islam in Europe, I'll be a little bit provocative, but it's the same as in the Middle East. Either we get an inclusive society with all communities living together and sharing best common interests for everyone, for all communities, and then we can face a common future together, or we are just facing marginalizations of extremist groups and young people, and then it will get worse and worse. That is very clear. Up to now in France, we have an inclusive society. We're able to cope. Tomorrow, everybody will march, whatever their denomination, whatever the political party will be. Everybody will be there. You just mentioned that all over Europe, people will rally for this march.
Yeah.
But definitely, we have to be very concerned and tackle the real issue of this new reality we are facing. And if we do not consider new alliances and new strategies, I'm afraid it will get further, and this could be very dangerous. May I say as well that we in France and in Europe, we are still very concerned. I personally helped to get your Prime Minister, Salam, to come to visit Mr. Juncker. We are very concerned that in Lebanon there is no president at this stage, and this is something which for us is not a good sign for the health of society, for the health, of course, of dignity in a civil state, because all citizens deserve to be represented at the international level, which is not the case now currently for Lebanon.
No.
And this is for us a big concern as you are facing dramatic crisis of refugees and, as you mentioned, just internal issues which are not easy to solve for any government. But at this stage now, for us, it's very important that Lebanon gets a proper government, a proper structure with a president heading your state. It's very important for us.
It's important for everybody concerned as well. But Lebanon on the side, and speaking of president, in about 2 years, France is going to re-elect presidents. What do you think of the Front National leader, Marine Le Pen? Her approval ratings have been steadily rising. Can we see a drastic shift to the right in French politics, especially with President François Hollande's ratings at an all-time low at the moment?
Well, at this stage, Marine Le Pen is raising issues which have to be taken seriously and tackled seriously. Solutions are questionable, of course. But the diagnosis of the structure of society should be taken into account, should be considered. And she would raise issues that others would not raise. And she's followed by many people. We are not even considering if she will be at the first round of elections, but we know that she will be at the second round of elections, because the way she speaks is a way which is the way people are feeling in France, for many of them, you know. And this could be very dangerous because, of course, you have, as you mentioned, in society which is fragile, all kinds of people who could find radical solutions which would be inclined to get closer to extremist groups. And this would be a major concern if our government is not considering and tackling the real issue from now on. It's very urgent. We are too late. If we now try to face in reality the issue of Daesh, for instance, yes, we know that even with the best solutions, at least 3 years would be needed, with all kinds of support brought to local authorities and governments and so forth, to try to tackle and to eradicate these extremist groups. And this is a serious concern for all society, whether in the Middle East or in Europe.
At the moment. All right. Thank you for joining us. That was advisor to the European Parliament, Catherine Vierling, talking to us live from Brussels. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you, Yumna. Good work. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And coming up next, stories making headlines here at home. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. In Lebanon, Grand Mufti Abdellatif Deryan is calling on Lebanon's Muslims to denounce extremism and stick to their history of tolerance and diversity, he says. Addressing a crowd of representatives from the Beirut Families Association, Deryan praised Beirut as the city of coexistence and called on its families to embrace diversity and mutual respect. The Mufti strongly condemned fundamentalists, saying they are far from true Islam, both in action and in mentality, and stressed the responsibility of Lebanon's Muslims to raise their voices against extremism, sectarianism, and racism. And from the weather, we can expect still more thunderstorms to come up this week, snow and icy roads this weekend, but temperatures will start to rise as the storm Zina travels southeast. Today will bring a slight increase in temperatures. Weather in the mountains and the Bekaa Valley will remain below freezing, and there will be snow at 800 meters above sea level, according to the meteorological department at Beirut's airport. Thunderstorms are also likely as strong winds of up to 65 kilometers per hour. Public Works and Transportation Minister Ghazi Zaitar says his department has been cleaning gutters so that rain can drain from the streets properly. It has also sprinkled salt and gravel on roads to prevent the formation of ice. The minister urged citizens to limit non-emergency travel. And speaking of which, well, the minister Ghazi Zaitar pledged to boost the infrastructural projects in the northern city of Tripoli, saying the city's socioeconomic situation is tragic. North Lebanon Governorate in general and Tripoli in particular live in tragic suffering due to the political and economic circumstances that it is passing through. Zaitar's words after visiting Justice Minister Ashraf Rifi as part of his tour of Tripoli. The minister rejected allegations of transferring budgets from Tripoli's development projects to other areas. What is for Tripoli's has remained and will remain for Tripoli, he said, promising the north to make up for the deprivation. The Kataeb Party is releasing a statement outlining their proposal amendments to the controversial waste management bill after the party blocked the passing of the bill proposed by Environment Minister Mohammed Mashnou at Thursday's cabinet meeting. The party stated that the current bill puts too much power in the hands of waste management companies to decide the location of landfills, proposing instead to put this power in the hands of the government. The party also criticized the bill for lack of competition. The contract of Souklin, the company handling solid waste in Beirut and Mount Lebanon at the moment, expires on January 17th. Also, the proposed date to close the controversial Name dump, and officials are warning that Beirut could be buried in trash if the issue is not resolved before the date. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. France takes all measures to ensure the safety of Sunday's march
to be attended by European leaders after this week's attacks amid the highest possible security levels in Paris. Grand Mufti Abdul Latif Daryan calls on Lebanon's Muslims to denounce extremism and stick to their history of tolerance and diversity. And the weather, more thunderstorms expected, snow and icy roads this weekend, but temperatures will start to rise as Storm Zina travels southeast. Those are your Saturday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nofat signing off. Have a good weekend and stay warm.